A heated debate on the mayor's conduit deal.
The way that this entire situation has been handled is nothing more than a power grab.
The upcoming vote and why the mayor says that one won't matter. A city charter school will remain open, but with a long list of conditions.
That's the list that should apply to all of our schools.
Our team is questioning why struggling public schools don't have to meet the same requirements.
The media can't get a response to simple questions about how some of that money is spent.
Plus, Fox 45 News Project Baltimore demands answers on failing schools, going directly to the state school board. Then, two groups helping young men turn their lives around. How Roca is transparent with its spending, while the city's Safe Streets program continues to shut out Fox 45 News.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. The back and forth over the mayor's controversial conduit deal continues tonight.
That's right. Mayor Brandon Scott is at odds with Comptroller Bill Henry and Council President Nick Mosby weeks after news of the deal first broke.
2 weeks ago, the mayor approved the deal at a Board of Estimates meeting without the comptroller or council president. They sat out to try to stop the vote.
Well, tonight it seems the deal is in limbo.
This deal is done. The vote from last week is valid.
The Charter of Baltimore clearly expects that the quorum of the Board of Estimates is all 5 members. You can't abstain at a meeting you're not at.
The administration can't have it both ways. In one way, they want to say that they conducted the business of the city of Baltimore just for one particular item. We didn't gavel in.
Fox 45's Jeff Abel has been following this story for weeks now. He's live with the latest. Jeff?
Well, you know, the mayor insists this is a done deal, but he may be the only elected official in this city who's convinced it is a good deal for the city. Minutes after the gavel fell, fiery words erupted. Community leaders taking aim at the Board of Estimates.
I don't think that you're actually operating in the best interest of the citizens of Baltimore.
And board members taking aim at each other.
The vote was valid and the deal is done.
This is yet another example of the administration picking and choosing what to do.
At issue, an agreement the mayor signed last month, which gives BG&E broad control over the city's underground conduit system. The comptroller and council president say they were kept in the dark about the agreement and had little time to review it.
Never, and I repeat, never have I done anything or made any decision that was not in the best interest of those who call this great city home. If there was a better deal to be done, that deal would have been done.
Just because he feels this deal is in the best interest does not mean he is automatically right. It means that's where he is on this issue.
2 weeks ago, the comptroller and council president refused to attend a Board of Estimates meeting when the agreement was set to be approved. But the mayor and his 2 appointees approved the agreement anyway.
This deal is done. The vote from last week is valid.
The way that this entire situation has been handled is nothing more than a power grab and move to suits the interests of private industry.
What we're missing here is a judge. I think we've reached the point where it's clear that we just have to agree to disagree.
I'm really losing confidence in the ability of Brandon Scott to be more than a kid mayor.
Professor Richard Vatz believes the dispute over the mayor's handling of the agreement could have been avoided.
You have to learn that you don't run a city as your own fiefdom, even if it's a single-party city. You've got to be more responsible.
Well, shortly after the mayor signed that agreement last month, BG&E announced plans to raise rates for all of its customers. The issue will be back before the Board of Estimates next month. We're live tonight. Jeff Apel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Fox 45 will continue to demand answers about the conduit deal. You can find our past reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
A leader within the city's Department of Public Works has been charged with sexually assaulting another DPW employee. Charging documents accused Jerome Ragsdale of assaulting a subordinate. The complaint says HR didn't follow up with her. She says she was offered money to recant her statement about the assault. Charging documents say the woman contacted HR about the incidents a few times before reaching out to Baltimore police in January. Police say a warrant was issued for Ragsdale last month, and he is in custody. Now, DPW tells Fox 45 News it's aware of the incident but won't comment on it because it's under investigation. You can find more details about the complaint on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Turning to the class crisis in the classroom, after weeks of uncertainty, the Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys remains open with a list of requirements. That includes more certified educators, a financial expert, and better special education services. Fox 45's Keith Daniels has a look at those conditions and why some say they're unfair. Keith?
Well, Kai, City School Board commissioners came back with a split vote last week, but after a vote last night, a unanimous decision, and tonight, that decision for the charter has put some other city schools under scrutiny. Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys remains open, but with a lengthy list of conditions.
The operator hires personnel located in the Baltimore area. The operator shows improvement in the delivery of special education services, ensuring that there's compliance with grant management.
Other requirements on that scrolling list include more certified teachers, a city-approved financial expert, and improved data processes. Items the district believes that will help improve the school. But some observers,
the first thing that I think of is hypocrisy,
including Eurypsy Morgan, spokesperson for the group People for Elected Accountability and Civic Engagement, or PEACE, and Carl Stokes.
That's a list that should apply to all of our schools.
Former city councilman and founder of a shuttered charter school in Baltimore, both appearing on Fox 45 News, call the conditions placed on the collegiate charter unfair at best, a double standard at worst.
I don't think there's anybody who doubts that the schools should be in compliance to make sure that they're actually educating our children. The question is, why would you require this of a charter school and not the rest of the school system?
If more of these schools, the traditional schools, would do these things, the schools would be much better. Education would be much better for thousands of young people in Baltimore City. So yes, this is a double standard.
Reaction about the board's conditions on the charter school after the recent bleak report concerning several Baltimore City public schools. According to the Maryland State Department of Education, 23 city schools have 0 students who took standardized tests proficient in math. We reached out to city schools, emailed questions asking, regarding those schools, do they also have to meet similar requirements as placed on collegiate? If not, what conditions have been placed on those schools? A spokesperson responded with a statement that reads in part, "Your question conflates two totally unrelated situations," adding the stipulations for collegiate related to its charter renewal are based on established standards. Still, for Stokes,
and I know that in the greater majority of our schools, that list is not being adhered to. I know that it is a double standard.
Well, regarding those 23 city schools, school officials did respond in a statement that reads in part, they say they are taking steps to improve math scores, including professional development for teachers and summer learning for students. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. We'd like to know what you think. Should those responsible for failures in city schools be fired? 98% of voters who weighed in say yes. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on the Pulse tab to also weigh in.
Well, the gun violence in Baltimore rages on. This afternoon, a shooting outside the Whole Foods in Harbor East left 2 windows shattered. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but now fears that a bill backed by Ivan Bates, the city state's attorney, to strengthen punishments for firearm offenders could stall in Annapolis. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has a closer look.
The bill seeks to raise the maximum penalty for certain gun offenders who are 21 and older. Right now, anyone between 18 and 20 with the same charge already faces a max penalty of 5 years. The legislation had one bill hearing in a House committee, but really so far hasn't moved forward. Now we're seeing Senate President Bill Ferguson say he does support the legislation, but is raising some concerns about the plan moving forward. The support for Baltimore's town prosecutor Ivan Bates' push to crack down on sentences for gun offenders includes elected leaders at several levels. Current and former Democratic leaders in Annapolis.
We have some congressional support. It looks pretty positive.
Well, this legislation to me speaks volumes. It just shows that we in Baltimore City are trying to move in the right direction.
Republicans in the State House.
Mr. Bates has decided, the state's attorney in Baltimore City, to do something, and I want him to know that I am on his side. I'm willing to do anything I can to help his efforts. As a legislator, I feel like this problem is out of control.
And even Congressman Kwesi Mfume sending this letter to the chair of the House Judiciary Committee in support of the bill. Despite the list of sponsors on both sides of the aisle in both chambers, the future of the legislation is not clear.
I support it. Let me be clear. I also know that even in supporting it, I don't think that the passage of that one piece of legislation has a demonstrable impact on whether or not we see more or less crime.
Senate President Bill Ferguson, a Baltimore City Democrat, on WBAL's C4 and Brian Neiman show Wednesday morning, offering cautious optimism.
I support the initiative. I think that there are going to be some important conversations in the Judicial Proceedings Committee. I know that Legislative Black Caucus has expressed some concerns.
It's unclear what those concerns are. The Legislative Black Caucus not responding to Fox 45's email asking for clarity. The Senate President says Bates' bill won't be the fix to the city's crime crisis.
I just don't see a lot of the causation there.
In a statement to Fox 45 News, Bates agrees his proposal is not a cure-all for the deep issues surrounding violent crime. But Bates says it's common sense legislation that should be supported by the people who want to prioritize public safety in Baltimore. Bates has long said this plan is a piece of the puzzle.
Do I think that this will have an effect? It is one of the tools in the toolbox that will have some sort of an effect.
The state's attorney in Baltimore says he's already seen the impacts of the legislation.
It's that new state's attorney, man. Yeah, that's all they keep talking about down there.
Inmates in Baltimore City talking about Bates' plan to crack down on illegal guns, despite the bill not voted on yet by lawmakers in Annapolis. And now it's unclear when or if a vote will even happen. This charge is a misdemeanor, so anyone sentenced would only have to serve 25% of whatever the judge decides. And it's important to remember that the judge still has discretion when it comes to handing down the sentence. As for what's next, it's unclear when or if this bill will have another hearing. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Tomorrow, lawmakers in Annapolis will hear 4 bills dealing with juvenile justice, 2 from Democrats and 2 from Republicans. Democrats are pushing the Youth Equity and Safety Act. It would end the practice of automatically charging juveniles as adults in serious crimes like murder. The Youth Accountability and Safety Act would prevent anyone under the age of 25 from being charged with felony murder. Now, from Republicans, the Juvenile Gun Offenses Accountability Act of 2023 would allow children as young as 10 to be charged with gun crimes. Republicans are also trying to change current law, preventing anyone from under 13 from being charged with any crime. They want that threshold to be 11 years old. Fox 45 News will have complete coverage of tomorrow's hearing on those bills on air and online.
Well, taking a look outside right now may be quiet, and actually Jupiter and Venus, I believe it is, they are the closest that they're going to be until 2033 or something like that. It's way off, about 10 years from now. So go check it out. Notice all the rain that's heading in from the west. It's coming. It looks like it's quiet through about midnight tonight, and then look what happens into tomorrow. The morning, it's going to be wet and rainy. I'm going to let you know how long this is going to last and how warm it gets tomorrow afternoon in my Weather Authority forecast.
Still ahead on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, graduation rates and test scores drop, and Project Baltimore pushes state leaders in charge of a $10 billion budget on what's happening to improve public education. Seeking transparency for your tax dollars, one group trying to help young men in Baltimore opens their books, while the city's flagship violence reduction program shuts out Fox 45 News. And fighting for residents whose homes were swallowed by a sinkhole in Baltimore.
If there weren't repeated efforts by a local news station, their lie might have persisted.
Still ahead, you won't believe when a doomed century-old storm drain was last inspected by the city.
It is a $10 billion public school system, but the people in charge, members of Maryland State Board of Education, have not publicly acknowledged recent Fox 45 News findings, including test scores that sparked national outcry.
After months of unanswered questions, Project Baltimore's Chris Papps went straight to state leadership.
Good morning, everyone. Want to call our meeting to order.
The Maryland State Board of Education meets once a month here at the State Education Building in downtown Baltimore. The board's 13 members, plus one student representative, all appointed by the governor, attend the meetings. So does the state superintendent, who the board appoints.
At this time, we'd like to hear from Mr. Christopher Papps.
This past Tuesday, Project Baltimore spoke to all of them.
Good morning. I came here today with significant concerns about transparency and accountability within the Maryland State Department of Education.
We signed up for public comment at this state board meeting because we felt like it was the only way to reach the leadership of Maryland public schools.
In Maryland, it is my experience that MSDE is the most difficult organization to get answers from.
Since December 9th, Project Baltimore has sent 12 emails to MSDE and called numerous times with questions about serious issues, including enrollment irregularities, ghost students, and state test scores. But for nearly 3 months, we've never received a reply. No calls. No emails.
This body oversees billions of tax dollars. You are commissioned to educate nearly 1 million students, and the media can't get a response to simple questions about how some of that money is spent and how some of those students are educated.
You know, we have contacted you whenever you have had questions.
No, you have not. That is not a true statement. Last week, I spoke with Dr. Sylvia Lawson. I said directly to Dr. Lawson that no one has responded to my phone calls and my emails. Even after I had that conversation with her, still nobody responded to my phone calls and emails. This is transparency, according to the Maryland State Department of Education.
Project Baltimore recently found 23 Baltimore City schools where 0 students who took the state math test last year scored proficient. Another 20 Baltimore City schools had a total of 1 or 2 students test proficient in math. That's 43 total schools with concerning test scores in the city where this meeting took place. But the state superintendent won't speak with us about it.
I personally emailed you about an interview to discuss the recently released MCAP scores. You never got back to me. Mr. State Superintendent, I would like to sit down with you.
Pardon me.
Yes.
You please address your comments to the entire board, not to an individual. Okay. That's part of our requirement here. Please. Okay. Thank you.
Board members, I am requesting an interview to sit down with the state superintendent. I would like to ask him about these schools and what can be done. We have interviewed parents and students who attend these schools. Many of them feel trapped. They feel hopeless. They tell us they don't think anyone cares about them.
They don't care.
Those parents include Nichelle Watkins, who spoke with Project Baltimore last month. Watkins is the mother of a Baltimore City student who attends one of the 23 schools. He's in 4th grade, but reads at a 1st grade level.
The parents and students that we speak with want to know what this board and what the state superintendent is doing to help them. And can you say what you are doing is working when nearly 1/3 of the schools who took the state math test in Baltimore last year had 0, 1, or 2 students proficient?
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
I look forward to hearing back from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My public comment wrapped up around 9:30 Tuesday morning. As of this broadcast, we've heard nothing from MSDE or the state superintendent. But we'll keep trying. I'm Chris Papst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Project Baltimore has been trying to get answers from MSDE on a number of issues. That includes multiple requests for an interview with the state superintendent to discuss the MCAP scores.
But Project Baltimore has also asked about enrollment irregularities and funding for ghost students. We know Baltimore City had to reimburse the state about $350,000 for students who were funded but not actually attending school. But MSDE has not answered these questions. Have they collected any money from other school systems for inaccurate enrollment counts? If so, which school systems and how much? And why didn't MSDE reclaim funds for nearly 3,000 students who were inappropriately funded and self-reported by local districts? If Project Baltimore gets answers to any of these questions, we will keep you updated.
I mean, that level of transparency is something that we pride ourselves on.
Fox 45 News continues to get a front row seat of how the group ROCA is changing the lives of young men in Baltimore. Coming up at 10:30, they open their books for us while Safe Streets shuts us out.
And take a look at this devastating video coming out of Greece, a deadly head-on crash between two trains at a high speed, the arrest and resignation right after the break.
I was doing a little bit of fact-checking over the past few minutes. It's actually going to be February 7th, 2032 that Jupiter and Venus are as close as they are tonight in the night sky. Actually looks like two kissing stars out there. We actually have some moonlight and some starlight to actually see it by. So check it out before the rain moves in late night tonight and the topsy-turvy weather continues tomorrow. Rain in the morning, upper 60s, mid 40s, rain on Friday, low 50s, sun and blustery Saturday. I'm going to let you know if the roller coaster goes up or down after that. My Weather Authority forecast.
Taking a look now at the Fox Box top left, San Diego parents this week are protesting their school district's disciplinary policy. They say it has led to violence without consequences. Expulsion requires approval from the school board. The district pledges the policy is being enforced as it should be and welcomes the feedback.
More than 40 people have died after a head-on crash between a passenger and freight train in northern Greece. The station master has been arrested and transportation minister has resigned.
Bottom left, the CEO of Norfolk Southern will testify before a Senate committee in the wake of the toxic fiery derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Alan Shaw will go under oath next Thursday.
On the bottom right, New York City Mayor Eric Adams draws mixed reaction to comments at an interfaith breakfast that were critical of bans on school-sponsored prayer. Some accuse Adams of pushing theocracy. The mayor's office says some have attempted to hijack the narrative and that those in attendance understood what he meant.
Baltimore County residents making their voices heard at the county executive's budget town hall in Towson. Which one big topic was top of mind for many?
I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a look at if politicians' futures are tied to the level of crime in their cities or states.
We are following three big stories at 10:30.
After Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was voted out of office, some are looking at whether politicians' futures are tied to crimes in their cities, what that could mean in Baltimore City and beyond.
President Joe Biden makes another visit to Baltimore. His comments at the start of a Democratic policy retreat at the Inner Harbor.
Our coverage of gun violence disruption program ROCA continues as it expands into Baltimore County.
And we begin there. ROCA is planning to help more young men in our region.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost explains how the program is keeping track of their finances and shows taxpayers how their money is spent.
I'm glad to see everybody energy this morning. A lot of laughs starting early, so hopefully that energy turned to a great week this week.
Inside the ROCA HQ, the youth workers and participants are busy teaching and learning new ways of living, disrupting the cycle of violence and healing past trauma. The four-year program has about 250 people involved right now, working with a budget of $5.1 million this year. The funding comes from a mix of sources.
It's different based on what the funding source is.
In the fall, ROCA got a federal grant to help expand their programming outside the city and boost their after-shooting responses, where ROCA workers go door to door, looking to offer an off-ramp to some of the most high-risk young guys of getting involved in gun violence. Kurt Palermo, executive director for ROCA Baltimore, says transparency is key for the program's success, especially when it comes to funding.
We have a commitment and a responsibility to this city, to this state, for any dollar that we're given to be able to show exactly what that dollar was used for. Can
you do that?
Yeah, I mean, that level of transparency is something that we pride ourselves on.
Roca, providing a cost breakdown, says that it's about $13,500 for each participant in the first 2 years.
We're right here by the football field.
And that includes the work crew portion of the efforts.
That costs money, but it's an opportunity for them to work 4 days a week, and we know that they're safe when they're with us.
Like when guys
my first day, so
help clean up Patterson Park. Their analysis shows the cost per person is cut in half for the years 3 and 4. So where are we going now?
I'm gonna go see one of my guys.
Roca opening their doors to the press, allowing us to ride along, while youth workers check in with the participants.
I'm out front, bro.
What's up, y'all? You was down there with Boosie Boo?
But that's not the case with other programs in the city working to curb gun violence. Safe Streets is very different than Roca. But the program has 10 locations across Baltimore using funds from the city and state. But the city remains committed to not sharing some of that information about Safe Streets with Fox 45. We've asked for employee information to learn who's working at these gun violence intervention sites. Fox 45 had to threaten legal action to get hundreds of pages with names of employees redacted. The community-based organizations have kept quiet about how they operate the locations. We've gone looking for details about how Safe Streets works.
Are you the site director?
Only to get stonewalled. The city usually leading the charge, refusing to explain how Safe Streets defines what a mediation is, despite often touting the number of mediations Safe Streets has accomplished. Last year, Mayor Brandon Scott announcing a shift in management for the program. The change coming after months of relentless Fox 45 News investigations into Safe Streets.
Does that signal that the previous CBOs that were operating these locations were mismanaging the locations?
no, it's about evolving.
Instead of the patchwork of community-based organizations, the city moving management to just LifeBridge and Catholic Charities. That shift was set to be finalized in January 2023, but that hasn't happened. During the March 1st Board of Estimates meeting, the City Spending Board approved extending the old contracts with the community groups. City leaders telling Fox 45 News the groups needed more time to finalize their work.
We're just making sure that things are crossing every T, dotting every I as we make the changeovers. That's it.
Are the locations themselves changing?
No, we know that these will stay in the neighborhoods that they are in and have been in for many, many years.
But the physical addresses, are they changing?
The locations are not. Safe Streets operates in zones.
Correct, but they have buildings that they operate in.
That'll be up to the operators. We don't determine where the buildings are. The operators make sure that they figure out what buildings they want to use.
So with the change of the CBOs, they probably are changing then, right?
We've gone to the Safe Streets locations where the city advertises them to be. Park Heights, nothing. Franklin Square, no one there. Silence in Cherry Hill, too. City leaders continue to financially back the program, while keeping track of the money is spent once it's handed out to the community groups remains unclear. Meanwhile, back inside Roca, Baltimore, their work continues, preparing to expand into Baltimore County.
To be able to expand outside of Baltimore, not that our work is done here, but it's a testament to how hard we've worked over the last 4.5, 5 years.
And keeping track of the progress and all the receipts along the way.
We've asked to sit down with Shantae Jackson for months. She leads the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, the same organization within City Hall that oversees the implementation of Safe Streets. So far, Jackson has refused to do an interview with us to talk about Safe Streets. But if that changes, we're more than willing to make it happen. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And Fox 45 has been investigating the Safe Streets program for more than a year. You can find all of our past reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
City Councilman Christopher Manette wants to increase fines on businesses that allow teens in their stores during school hours. Now, the law against it has been on the books since 2014. The fine is currently $500. Councilman Burnett wants to increase that fine to $1,000. Business owners say the law is unfair.
They are violent upside there. So if something happens in front of my door, if I go upside and try to tell them, guys, you have to calm down, no, they will attack me.
I would push back with the notion that businesses bear no responsibility. I mean, we have businesses are responsible. If a student comes in and someone under the age of 21 wants to buy alcohol, it's the business's job to say, hey, I can't serve you.
Well, the new bill is in response to January's shooting at Edmondson Shopping Center. One teen was killed and 4 others were hurt.
President Joe Biden was in Baltimore City tonight to kick off the Democratic Caucus Issues Conference. House Democrats are here for the 3-day policy retreat. They will talk about some of the biggest issues facing the party, including how to win back the majority in the 2024 election. During his keynote speech, the president urged Democrats to tout his administration's accomplishments as their own, especially when it comes to creating new jobs.
But we can see it on your districts. Those 12 million new jobs, they're real jobs, man. It means we created more jobs in 2 years than any presidential term in American history. Not just created, but you created it. You did it.
The president is expected to meet with Senate Democrats tomorrow.
Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski is holding his 5th annual Budget Town Hall series. He wants to hear from citizens about priorities for fiscal year 2024. Tonight, residents in Towson talked about several issues, including crime.
The violent crimes of the past 3 to 4 weeks are nominally, but they are so disturbing. I feel terrible for the victims, terrible for the businesses, and really dismayed for the community.
What I would like to look at is is there a disconnect between what the district attorney's office is asking for sentencing and what is actually coming out of the judges? Is that something that the community needs to know?
Well, there are 3 more town halls left in the series in Catonsville, Timonium, and Randallstown.
Making headlines now, a Chicago police officer shot and killed in a shootout while on a domestic call. The shooter is in critical condition tonight. Hundreds of officers saluting their fallen brother and mourning tonight. This happened just hours after the police superintendent announced he is resigning.
And it comes the day after Mayor Lori Lightfoot was voted out of office, with some political experts say crime being one of the major issues voters will take to the ballot box.
Crime is becoming a major issue in cities across our nation. As chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us, Congress is getting involved too.
We will make Chicago the safest city in America.
Running on promises to fight crime in Chicago.
We can build a better, stronger, safer Chicago.
A former school CEO and a county commissioner just ousted nationally known Mayor Lori Lightfoot, blamed in part by opponents for the spike in violent crime, a big factor in voter turnout and the most mail-in ballots ever for a municipal election there.
14, Robert, we're sitting here right now.
The number of homicides hitting a 25-year high in 2021 with 797, decreasing last year, but still more than when Lightfoot took office. It's not just Chicago where crime has doomed candidates labeled too lenient. In San Francisco, the district attorney was recalled. Some want the same for New Orleans mayor over safety concerns. And in their last election, frustrated New Yorkers chose a former police captain to run the city. In Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill getting involved too, with Democrat Joe Manchin joining Republican senators. Congress looks poised to vote and override the D.C. City Council's new criminal code, which critics say is soft on violent crime. Manchin quoted as saying, "I want to put people away. I don't want to let them out." Though President Biden could use his veto pen to side with the D.C. City Council. Yet longtime lawmakers also know safety can't be ignored.
Job number one in public office is keep people safe. And when I was a mayor, that's what I did. When I was a governor, that's what I did. Making sure that our communities are safe, that law enforcement and the broader community has the resources they need.
Republicans especially banking on that issue getting them elected. Former President Trump promising record investment in policing, and potential challenger Ron DeSantis just finished a speaking tour on crime across 3 major cities, including Chicago. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
In Baltimore, political observers say the unseating of Chicago's mayor could be an indicator of what's to come in Charm City. They say the frustration with current leaders has already been reflected in the polls this past election, where more than 70% of Baltimore voters decided to remove former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. Political analyst John Deedy says a similar future could happen to Brandon Scott, depending on how voters vote.
When he ran for office, he promised to get under 300 murders, and we're nowhere close to that so far. And I think that he's got to try to show that progress is being made. I would tie myself as much as possible to Ivan Bates, because right now, everyone is following Ivan Bates's lead on crime.
That brings us to our national question of the day. Will crime in your area affect the way you vote? To answer, scan the QR code on your screen right now.
Families demanding answers from the city tonight after a Fox 45 News investigation found the city might not have been totally transparent about the sinkhole that destroyed their homes, how they plan to move forward. And ahead on the late edition, MTA in desperate need of drivers after pandemic staffing shortages. The new incentives to entice potential employees.
And as we work our way through the overnight hours and early tomorrow morning, there could be a few showers as you're dropping the kids off at the bus stop. 49 degrees, but look at that warm afternoon. It's not going to last long, though. I'll let you know when a cold rain gets here. My Weather Authority forecast.